Big round of applause, please.
You heard the 5 suggestions on how to keep women de-stressed and in effect have the men de-stressed too. Suggestion number 6. Have coffee. Coffee is an energizer, a beverage that is known to every one of us, at least here in this room. One of the reasons is going to come up in a forthcoming slide. However, did you know that if you had one coffee too many, you can stay awake the entire night? That is very true. And coffee, this small bean that changes the aroma and the quality of the water it is boiled in, has magical as well as not so magical effects. Today we will take a look at how coffee has come into our lives and has stayed. The first is its very humble beginnings. Now, coffee belongs to a Rubiaceae family. That's how it's pronounced. So the Rubiaceae family, which means that it is born in a genus of family which brings out beans. The flowers create seeds, and what we call as coffee beans are in essence these seeds or these flowers. It was first discovered in Yemen. Now, the Bibliothèque Nationale, that's a museum in Spain, says that it was first very early discovered in somewhere around 1625 AD. But the first written record of when coffee was first discovered is in Yemen in around the year 1500. From there, it spread to first the Arab nations, from the Arab nation to Europe, and then with the East India Trading Company and the various traders, it spread all over the world. In India, if you have heard of the Baba Budangiri Hills, which is in Chikmagalur, was the first place the coffee was planted. We will come to those 2 interesting stories in forthcoming slides. Something like that where Baba Budangiri, how he brought those coffee beans in our country. The next slide, please. So, are you ready to hear the interesting stories of coffee and its discovery?
Yes.
The first story, which has this account, the first written account of coffee is that it was found by the goat herder called Cultivation. He was herding the goat, and then he found that the goat was herding or chewing some of the berries. And after a while, they became really excited. They were like running amok all over the place. Then this goat herder tried it out. And he found that it was very revitalizing for him. He went back, told it to his village, and you know what the village chief said? He said, "This is a sign of evil, do not consume." The second story is of Sheikh Umar of Mocha. Well, it is spelled as Mocha, and you might know where the word Mocha comes from. It's in a place in near Yemen called Sana, and that is the flavor of Mocha coffee. Now, Sheikh Umar was the one who would take care of the village sick. Once, he could not take care of the village chieftain, and he was banished from that village. Now, according to the records, he said that, it is said that the sheikh was moving aimlessly in the desert, not knowing what to do, when he came across these red berries. He tried chewing them, and they were bitter. He tried to put them, he burned them in some fire, and they turned hard. So next what he did, he put them in water, boiled them, and the brew that he got revitalized him and could sustain him for the next few days. He brought that berry back to the village and used it as cure. And from then on, the rest is legends, stories, and all these that follow. The traders took it, they took it from various places, and how the name coffee was formed from kahwa, akwa ulbun, or bun, which means the wine of beans, to the present day coffee. Next slide, please. If you can make out the map of the world map, and all the green shaded regions are where coffee is produced. So various flavors, we have the two major flavors, the Arabiata comes from the Arab world itself, and the Robusta, which is supposed to be very hardened and can sustain even the attacks from all the insects. That is the darker green shade. If we see in the next slide, please, this is how the production of coffee looks like. India is a meager 4%, and the major producer of coffee comes from Brazil. This is somewhere in 4.7 million metric tons. That is the total world production. And how is our production in India itself? It is in this region. Karnataka is the largest producer of coffee, followed by Kerala and then Tamil Nadu. The figures speak for itself. Recently, we have been starting projects and efforts so that we can have coffee being grown in all the northeastern regions also, because weather is conducive. But you know, it is still going to take time before these regions can make a dent in the coffee production. Now, this is a very strange fact. 90% of the coffee is produced in all the developing countries. The 90% of the nations that are involved in producing coffee is forms this big pie, big piece of the pie, and the small one is all the developed nations that consume it. Imagine 90% of the world are growing coffee to feed the 10%. What are the benefits? We already talked about, I'm not going to read through these slides, we already talked about how the stress can be reduced because of coffee. But let's take a look at what is the negative aspect of it. It is said, it's not yet been proven, that cancer is one of the causes. Why? Just because the coffee can reduce the stress by enabling the release of adrenaline in our bloodstream, which is a fight or flight hormone. It means that if you are ever faced with a stressful situation, you will either run away or you will stay, or you will fight them. That is how this adrenaline is produced. But too much of it is also one of the causes. The next slide, please. And how coffee is popularized. Have you heard of the Starbucks?
Yes.
And have you heard of cafe coffee?
Yes.
So, these are the coffee houses. These have been coming since the medieval times till today. And believe it or not, it is the way that how people socialize over coffee and enables the large-scale production, sale, as well as profits that coffee make. Without the coffee houses, coffee itself would fade away. And a final parting message to you. If you want to remember coffee and all the various varieties that start from A to Z, have coffee. Over to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Sanjay, for informing us about coffee. And I'm typical South Indian, I love my filter coffee.